Was smoking on my dragons, divine, righteous, almighty, great, overachieving, never slacking. Today we are flying over to Scotland, and we got unexpected culture shocks when moving to Scotland. And this video was by Peter Ort. Original link will be in the description if you want to go show love to his original page. And with that being said, here we go. Let's look at these unexpected culture shocks. And much love to all my people out in Scotland because man, you guys are always showing love. I got a lot of respect for you guys.
Today, I'm going to talk about 10 unexpected culture shocks that I experienced when moving from the United States to Scotland. Even though they kind of speak English here, it is a completely different world, and it's impossible to go into every single difference in one video. So let's just call this part one, because I'm sure I will make more videos in the future about things that you might find shocking if you're moving from the United States to Scotland or elsewhere in the UK. Let's start by saying hello. In the United States, whenever I was greeting someone, I would usually just say what's up or hi or hello. Here in the UK, the standard greeting and pronunciation will vary a lot based on where it is you live. Where I live, I would say the most common one is either hiya or all right. I've been here almost 4 years now, and all right still kind of trips me up sometimes.
Hiya. I actually like that. It's pretty cool.
Because in the States, if you ask if someone's all right, it's usually because they look like they're hurt or something like that. Whereas here, it's just a standard greeting, and they're not particularly asking you if you're actually all right. The typical response would be, all right, ta. Or if you're having a particularly bad day, you might just say, living the dream. Number two is that trash is everywhere, or as you'd call it here, rubbish. Now, I'm not sure if it's actually more here or if it's just more visible, because everything here is smaller and you're not kind of just trapped in your car the whole time driving everywhere like you would be in the States. But I at least feel like I see a lot more rubbish here, and I think there are, well, the two main reasons for it. I live on the west coast of Scotland and we get a ton of wind. I would say that overall the worst part about our weather is the wind. And when it comes to rubbish, in the United States, your rubbish, everywhere I've ever lived or ever heard of, rubbish is collected once a week. Whereas here where I live, your rubbish bin is only collected once every 3 weeks. Same goes for your multiple recycling bins, like your paper and cardboard bin, your plastic bin. All of them are basically alternating, and every 3 weeks you would have your bin collected. I constantly have rubbish in my garden that is not mine. And even though there are rubbish bins at, I would say, almost every bus stop and very regularly in town, they're almost always full when I see them. So they're not collected often enough. And then you add in the wind with those rubbish bins that are overflowing, well, you get the idea. If you're coming to the UK, especially if you have small children, just be aware. The rubbish is only collected every 3 weeks, at least in my council. And I'm sure you can imagine how bad it is when you have an entire bin completely full of dirty diapers, or nappies as they call them here.
Yeah, that would be rough right there for sure. Yeah, I'm gonna need that taken out every week.
Sitting outside in the summer heat for 3 weeks before being collected, it's not the most pleasant smell in the whole world. And number three, tap water is amazing. In the United States, the tap water is for the most part disgusting and unsafe to drink. I'm sure most of you have probably heard about what's happening with the water in Flint, Michigan, and what's been happening for at least a decade now. And while that might be an extreme scenario, I would say the vast majority of the US does not have safe drinkable tap water. Most Americans will just buy a whole bunch of plastic water bottles, or they'll use one of those like Brita filters for filtering all of their drinking water. When I first moved here, I bought a water filter because that's what I always had to use in the States. And I probably should be embarrassed by this, but it took me probably about almost 6 months before I really tried the tap water. And I wish I would have sooner because it is amazing. In the Glasgow area, the water is fairly soft because of the low mineral content in the area. And I know,
let me just say, wherever he is walking, it's like that's my lane right there. That's what I love to do. It just feels so relaxing. I'm loving it. Loving it.
Glaswegians would say it's the best tap water in the whole world. I couldn't really say if it's the best in the world, but it's definitely fantastic and the best that I've ever had. If you're moving somewhere like London, I've heard their water isn't as good, but it should at the very least be safe to drink, unlike in the United States, where the tap water frequently is dark and literally smells like mold. Number 4 is that you have to pay for bags at shops. You know how in Aldi you have to bring your own bags or pay for bags? Well, it's like that here in every single shop. If you forget to bring your own bag, that's fine, but they, by law, have to charge you a minimum of 10 pence per bag. I would say for the most part, you're looking at about 20 to 40 or 50 pence per bag, maybe a pound if you're getting one of those really fancy reusable ones, but it is something to look out for when you move here. Also, I've seen some Americans talk in these Facebook groups about bringing over your own bags when you move. Don't save the space because they are incredibly cheap to buy your own, and you will ultimately end up like in the States where you have a drawer full of a whole bunch of old plastic bags. It'll be the same way here. You'll have a whole bunch of reusable bags from all the times that you went to the shop and forgot to bring it with. Number 5 is that sales tax is included, but not always. One of the most infuriating things about shopping in the United States is that you never know exactly how much you're going to have to pay for your items until you go check out. In the US, none of the prices include sales tax, and the sales tax amount can vary not just from state to state, but also from city to city. There are times where you could buy the exact same item that's the exact same price from 2 different stores that are literally across the street from each other and pay a different amount in each store because that street is the county line where it changes to a new city or something like that. It's insane. Even essential items like food, baby products, hygiene products, in a lot of places in the States, they will still have the full amount of sales tax on them, whereas here they don't have any sales tax or VAT, value added tax. It's not really a huge issue anyways. You don't really notice it because here the price includes the sales tax, except when it doesn't. There are places here where the price does not include sales tax, but it is primarily places that are geared towards businesses. So things like online wholesalers for businesses or Costco don't include sales tax in their prices. Also, your car mechanic might not include tax in his rates. My local mechanic charges 50 pounds an hour for his labor, but that's before tax, before VAT. So in reality, it's closer to 60 pounds an hour for his labor, which is fine, just something you have to be aware about. Number 6, the green pump is petrol and the black pump is diesel. Now, Americans spend way more time at the pump than people here, and that's primarily for 2 reasons. American vehicles get significantly worse fuel economy, even if you account for the difference in the size of a gallon here compared to the States. And also, Americans spend way more time in their vehicles because they have to drive everywhere, so they go a lot more miles in their cars than people would here. In the United States, diesel-powered cars are almost non-existent. The only diesel-powered cars that I've ever heard of in the US would be like the Volkswagen TDI vehicles, and I think they stopped selling those a couple years ago because of the whole diesel emissions issue that probably everyone knows about now. Other than that, pretty much the only vehicles that would be diesel-powered would be your big 18-wheelers or lorries, and then some pickup trucks would use diesel. Regardless of how many people use diesel though, I would say everyone should know that in the States, the green pump is for diesel and the black pump is for gasoline or petrol. Here, it's the exact opposite. I haven't made this mistake, but I'm sure it's possible. When you come here, make sure that you double check the labeling for the pump because you don't want to grab diesel instead of petrol accidentally when you're going to fill up at the pump. Number 7 is the lack of sunlight. Now, Scotland is quite a bit further north than the continental United States, and growing up in Oklahoma, of course, days were longer in the summer and shorter in the winter, just like pretty much everywhere else. But when I moved here, I didn't quite realize just how much of a difference it would be and how extreme the differences would be. And that's one thing I'm not sure if I'll ever quite get used to. Winter in Scotland can be incredibly hard, especially depending on what type of work you do, because you can feel like it is constantly dark outside the entire time. In the dead of winter, the sun doesn't come up until like 9 a.m. and it starts getting dark at around 3 or 3:30 in the afternoon. So for a lot of people, it will be dark when you're going to work, and it will be dark when you're coming home from work. But on the flip side, summers are fantastic. Where I live in the dead of summer, even after midnight, you can still see a tiny little bit of light on the horizon. Number 8, daylight savings time is on a different day. A big adjustment when moving abroad is the time difference. Depending on where your family and friends are, even if they're on the East Coast, it's still going to be a 5-hour difference when you want to talk to them. One silver lining with this is that daylight savings time is actually on a different day here than it is in the United States. Our time just switched over last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago. Time kind of blends together for me. But there was a period of about 2 weeks where the time difference was 1 hour less. So people on the East Coast would have only been 4 hours behind instead of 5. So that's kind of nice. Number 9, they have milkmen. If you're in a major city like New York City, I wouldn't be surprised if they exist, but at least the part of the country that I lived in, milkmen were something from the movies from the 1950s or something like that. You didn't actually get your milk delivered.
That's true. That's like traditional, old school 1950s, 60s. It feels like summer right now in here. Like I'm sweating bullets, guys.
Judging by the way things are in the United States, even if it did exist, it would be incredibly expensive. A couple weeks after I moved here, I got a knock on my door from a salesman from the local farm just down the street, a couple miles. And ever since then, I have had a milkman. Well, I say milkman because that's what the term would be in the States. I'm not sure if it's actually a man that delivers it. All I know is that every Monday and Thursday morning when I wake up, there is milk sitting on my doorstep. And the best part about it is, not only is it convenient and easy, it's not expensive. The amount that I pay to have my milk delivered only works out to be like 30 or 40 pence more expensive per container than if I were to make the 30-minute round trip drive to Aldi and get the exact same thing. And the last unexpected culture shock that I'll talk about today is realizing just how stressed I was unknowingly from the threat of violence in the United States. Before I left the United States, I thought that I was fully aware of just how dangerous it was, but I don't think I truly realized it until after I left. There might be a better analogy to use, but you know that analogy where if you put a frog into a pan of room temperature water and then slowly bring it to a boil, it won't realize the danger that it's in until it's too late? I think that you can only truly realize the danger in the United States until that threat of danger is removed.
It's crazy that he would say that, because when I woke up this morning, I was thinking about an experience I had as a teenager when I was visiting my cousins in New York City, and we went out to the corner store one night. There was this they call them hop out boys, which is like undercovers that drive around in cabs to so you don't know they're cops, and they hopped out and they was like, put your hands on the wall, N-word, calling us the N-word, doing things that would be considered sexual assault, acting like they're failing you, and then just ridiculous. Making all type of racial slurs and threats, and it's like I do wonder if I was to go somewhere else, would that be? Obviously it's dangerous everywhere, but it just makes you wonder how it is in other places. That's all. That's all.
In Scotland, I never have to worry about my kids getting shot when they go to school. I'm not going to have to grab my kids and run out of the grocery store because someone walked in with a gun, or cut a coffee shop date short because someone came in and was sitting across the room with a gun strapped to their hip. Here in Scotland, security guards can't have guns, and even the police don't carry guns unless they're part of the armed response unit, which is basically our version of SWAT. Nowhere is perfect, but life here in Scotland is infinitely safer than in the United States. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're an American who moved to the UK, let me know in the comments what your biggest culture shock was when you first moved here. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to stay up to date. And if you like this video, you might enjoy this one where I talk about 8 things that you might not have realized were invented in or by Scottish people. That's it for now. I will see you next time.
Definitely give his page, his channel a look, because he's pretty cool. He's a pretty cool guy. The sales tax would definitely be something you got to pay attention to. The gas, something you definitely got to pay attention to. You don't want to put the wrong gas in, and no, you don't want to do that. It was something he had mentioned that was like, that had me by, what was it? It was in the beginning. Let me think. It was something else he had said. Let's see.
In the States, but I at least feel like I see a lot more rubbish here.
Okay, that's what it was. The trash. That's the that I'm trying to think of. Yeah, that would be crazy. Just seeing trash everywhere. Especially, I know he said it's real windy out there, so I know smells are just kind of blowing everywhere. Yeah, I mean, I've lived in New York City, so living in New York City, you know, you're gonna be used to trash just all over the place, honestly. So I'm not saying that wouldn't be nothing I wouldn't be used to, but yeah, trash makes me cringe. Seriously, it makes me just like, ooh, no, no bueno, no, 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 no. I remember like living in New York City, and I'd wait. I remember waking up to go, wake up to go to work like early 6, 7 a.m. And in the streets of the Bronx, certain areas, ooh, there'll be like trash all on the ground, even in the on it'll look like there's throw up on the street, and I just remember just like you start itching, you just kind of cringe, like this is disgusting, and you already know there's rats in New York City running around everywhere. So yeah, the trash don't sound too fun. Um, but I'm still sure Scotland's cleaner than New York City. I'm pretty sure they are. Just even him walking around right here, it's a lot more nature, obviously, like real authentic just nature. So I'm sure it's very avoidable. I'm sure there's a lot of places you could go. See, I'm a hiker. I love to hike. So even just watching this video was very soothing to me, just to see him like walking through on the trail, like as we see, like right here. I'm like, where is he at? That looks like somewhere I would be.
Unsafe to drink. I'm sure most of you have probably heard about what's happening with the water in Flint, Michigan, and what's been happening for at least a decade now. And
I mean, I don't like where he's at. Right, everything just seems perfect as far as just a perfect nature walk on a trail. The weather, you know, he seems like he's just enjoying himself. Like it just seems so peaceful and relaxed, and that's what I like. That's what I look for, just peacefulness and relaxation. So that just the video period made me definitely excited about just Scotland, you know. But yeah, the water. I would picture. I mean, when I think of overseas period, I always like tend to think that they have better water, just because like most of our mountain water, like Poland Spring or over here, these mountains. So it usually comes from overseas. So in my mind, I'm always kind of thinking like, all right, overseas period has to have better water, right? So he pretty much confirms that.
while that might be an extreme scenario, I would say the vast majority of the US does not have safe drinkable tap water. Most Americans will just buy a whole bunch of plastic water bottles, or they'll use one of those like Brita filters for filtering all of their drinking water.
Yeah, he not lying. Where I grew up at, I remember seeing something where it was like they'll every now and every couple years they'll have like this emergency. Don't drink the tap water. Something has been found in the tap water, and people are like freak out. Um, yeah, yeah, no, no. The tap water in America makes my stomach hurt. The type of water I usually like to drink is like, what is it? It's like the like Himalayan mountain, like just different type of mountain waters. I'm trying to think of a specific one that I get from Wegmans. Uh, I haven't got it in a little while. That's why I can't remember. But you know those ones that be in like the glass bottles, and then you drink it, and you're like, "Whoo, this is amazing!" Like that's what I like. And from how he, if listen, if Scotland water, tap water, tastes anything like our best bottled water that we get in the store out here, then Scotland wins 100%. Just the fact that he, like he said, he did, like one thing I love is seeing Americans go overseas, and then it's like they feel free, they feel more safe. I like that because it can be very, 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 very dangerous, and to the point where people don't realize it because you're used to it. So to see him go overseas and he's just kind of like, I now realize that I, I was in a boiling, like this pot that, now I'm out of it, and he's just walking around peaceful. That round of applause. But with that being said, y'all, that was Unexpected Culture Shocks from moving to Scotland. And once again, that was Peter Ort. Original link in the description. Definitely check him out. Definitely a cool guy. Definitely dropped a great video. I don't really see too much videos like this based in Scotland. So this was awesome. It was awesome. I definitely feel like people should talk about Scotland more, and that's not somewhere you usually hear people talk about moving. So that's really what brought my interest to Scotland. And so, and let me just say, obviously this didn't really show, too much of the life, like as far as the social life or anything like that, but it still brought a lot of just solid information. So he did an awesome job. But with that being said, I'll see y'all soon. I'm sweating bullets over here. Much love, y'all.